Let's make my painterly pinwheels that uses only 20 5-inch squares and 3/4 of a yard for your background. Now for the fabrics, I am using the Season of Tribute Garden Opulence by Bari J from Art Gallery Fabrics. Now Art Gallery Fabrics doesn't make charm packs, so I'm going to take a layer cake and cut it down into 5-inch squares. And then out of those, I'm only going to select 20 5-inch squares. Then with the remaining squares, I will save those for another project later. Now for my background, I am using Desert Dune by Art Gallery as well, but let's go ahead and get started. First, you are going to take your background yardage and cut 20 5-inch squares. Then with those 5-inch squares, you are going to place them right side together on top of a print 5-inch square, and you are going to sew all around the edge of the square, all 4 sides with a 1/4-inch seam allowance. Once you've done so, you will take your ruler and cut a 45-degree line twice in opposite directions to create a total of 4 half-square triangles measuring 3-inch squares. With those half-square triangles, you are going to create a pinwheel block, then sew your blocks together to form rows, and then lastly, sew those rows together to complete your pinwheel block. And your pinwheel will measure as a 5.5-inch square. Then you'll just repeat this step to all 20 print and background squares until you have made a total of 20 pinwheels. But once all of your pinwheels are complete, you're going to take 4 pinwheels and create a larger block like so. Then you will sew those together to now complete a 10.5-inch square. Now you're going to repeat this step until you have made a total of 3 larger quilt blocks. Do note you will have remaining smaller pinwheels, so don't freak out as we will be using them next. But once those larger 3 quilt blocks are made, with the remaining background yardage, you will cut 10 5.5-inch by 10.5-inch rectangles. And now it's time to lay the table runner out. So with those larger rectangles, you are going to use it as sashing in between your larger quilt blocks. Then all around your table runner, you will use it once again like a sashing. And then you'll take your smaller pinwheels and use them kind of like cornerstones. And you'll just repeat this even on your ends to create a sashing like border all the way around. Then as always, you'll just sew all your blocks together to form rows, and then lastly, sew those rows together to complete your table runner. And here is what my table runner looks like all complete. For the backing, I am using this amazing floral print from within the collection. And for the thread choice, I was going to go with glide threads in the color rustic brown, but under the shade it did look a little bit more maroon, but once the sun came out it started to look a lot more brown, so I ended up changing my mind and going with military gold. But here is what my painterly pinwheels looks like all quilted. Painterly pinwheels using 20 5-inch squares and 3/4 of a yard of background will yield you a 20-inch by 50-inch table runner. And for the quilting, I went with Windy Swirls, which I will have linked down below in the description. And that gold thread surprisingly blends quite well. It only starts to shine once you get up and close to it. But I do hope you have enjoyed today's tutorial. If you could please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can be notified for your next amazing quilt project.